everyone, and welcome to the Power and Pride special of MICAST. I'm your co-host Pallavi.
And I'm your co-host Kasturi. Our theme for this special episode is Power and Pride. We wanted to speak to someone who has advocated for the LGBT plus community, whose stories can teach us to be better allies. We are excited to have Suhail Abbasi, co-founder of the Humsafar Trust, with us on our Power and Pride episode. Suhail is an entertainment industry veteran and has been actively engaged in the movement behind India's LGBT liberation. We are delighted to have you here with us, Suhail.
Thank you very much, both of you, Pallavi and Kasturi. It's my pleasure and honor to be with you on this platform. So let's go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So, like we mentioned, you are the co-founder of the Humsafar Trust, which has been working for so many years. I think you celebrated 25 years very recently, right?
We have completed 28 years to be precise.
Wow, 28 years. So, for years and years, you've been supporting and liberating the LGBT community of India. I want you to tell us what the Humsafar story is, how it began, and then how did we get to where we are today?
Okay, so I'll have to go back to 1990, actually. When we started a magazine to mobilize the gay community called Bombay Dost. So that happened in 1990. I met Mr. Ashok Rao Kavi, one of my dear friends, and he said, let's start a magazine, let's start a newsletter, actually, because the community has networks, but they are unstructured, and we need to bring all of them on one platform, talk about our issues, talk about our health, talk about our rights, and mobilize them and bring them under one roof. So we said, let's start a magazine, and both of us got together and we founded the magazine. It was in two languages, English and Hindi. He used to edit the English section, I used to edit the Hindi section. Incidentally, we both were journalists and I was also a designer. So I used to take care of the designs and he used to take care of the writing. And it was an uphill task. We faced a lot of resistance from the community because at that stage people used to say, why do you want to rock the boat? Why do you want to go and tell others? Where do we meet? What do we do? What is it of any concern? You're exposing us. You'll expose us in front of everyone. We'll be out to our families. We'll be shunned by the society. And why do you want to talk about these issues? And we insisted that no, we want to talk about our rights. Unless we get up and speak, how will people know that we exist? And those days there was also the advent of HIV/AIDS. In around 86, 87, it had already come to India, and we wanted to talk about safer sex, condom usage, etc. So we started this magazine and we realized that we got a lot of support, not so much from the community initially, but a lot of support from the media, and we were very ecstatic. And we continued our work, but we also realized soon that by just starting a magazine, we cannot fulfill a lot of services that we want to provide to the community, like providing them a safe space to meet or give them legal help, give them any kind of medical help, provide counseling for them or getting them tested for HIV. So over a period of time, we thought that we should create some kind of a trust society or a foundation where we can offer all these services to the community. So and those days it was extremely difficult to find people who would put their name on paper and say that yes, I'm gay. And obviously there was huge amounts of stigma and discrimination. So those days it was very difficult to get people to put their names on paper and say that I'm gay, because there were issues of backlash, there was pressure, there were certain political parties those days which were very homophobic. So we had all kinds of fears. But nevertheless, we started off and we got a very positive response with Bombay Dost, and hence we decided to start a trust. We went through the legalities of it, and we realized that if we set up a society or a foundation, we'll require many more people to sign in. And if we formed a trust, we would require only 3 people minimum to sign on the deed. So there was Ashok, there was myself, and I had a friend called Sridhar. So we almost arm twisted him into signing the papers and getting him on board. And so the 3 of us founded, and we did a lot of advocacy with the government, and then finally we got space given to us by the Municipal Corporation of Mumbai to sit in Santa Cruz East. And that's where it was. There were two small rooms of 10 feet by 10 feet, and we used to share the floor with other NGOs, etc. So we had extremely modest beginnings with 3 people there, and slowly friends joined in, and we would have workshops every Friday where we would discuss the issues which impact the community, and people started coming in. And today we have it's a large organization with about over 150 employees, and we work in about over 20 states of India. And our byline is "Come home to Humsafar, where your identity is a reason for pride and not a reason to hide."
What an incredible story, Suhail. And you mentioned that you started small from just a magazine, and that's what my next question is going to be about. Bombay Dost was India's first registered magazine to serve the gay community, and it was an important milestone in the history of queer gay movement in India. So I wanted to ask you that for students who plan to get into media and content generation space, what would be your advice to them, or could you give us the sense of challenges that you and the magazine faced that the students can learn from?
Okay, so we had an inspiration. There were certain South Asian people who was in US, and they had started a newsletter called Trikon from San Francisco. Okay, and some of them, some key people in that organization were from Patna. So they started a Patna chapter. They wanted to start a Patna chapter of Trikon, and they did it but remotely from San Francisco. So we had, we didn't have any role models. We didn't have any kind of obvious, a path to progress of any kind. We were just learning by trial and error. So we decided to follow them, and we said, okay, let's start. Let's look for a word which is equivalent of a friend, because we didn't want to say gay or lesbian or anything of that sort. We wanted a more acceptable, more milder term. So we came up with the term dost, which means a friend. And we called it Bombay Dost because we started from Bombay, and we were hoping to extend this to other cities. Like we thought, when we grow bigger, we'll have a Delhi Dost and a Bangalore Dost and a Calcutta Dost and so on and so forth. So challenges were huge because initially we didn't realize that just writing text and getting it designed and printing a magazine is just the first step. Of course, you need funding for all this too, but the bigger challenge was to distribute it. Because all the stalls which kept magazines, they wanted a certain alarming regularity. Because if it's a quarterly, they said, then every 3 months strictly you have to give us the next issue. Otherwise, we'll not keep your magazine, because they used to allot slots on the bookstores. So if they allotted a particular slot for Bombay Dost would always be there. And if it was a quarterly, say it's an issue from Jan to March, then in the last week of March, the issue of April to June has to come there. And because of funding and lack of staff, we couldn't stick ourselves to punctuality. So we lost out. But a lot of clever entrepreneurs, what they did was that we used to sell Bombay Dost through a business center. So a lot of clever guys used to go there, pick the magazine up in bulk, and on the price, it was priced at 20 rupees. So on the price, they used to put a sticker there and say male contacts. So to attract the gay crowd, they used to put a sticker called male contacts, and people would get attracted and buy the magazine, and they would sell a 20 rupee magazine for 200 rupees. So we learned all these things when people started writing to us, and these were the kind of challenges that we faced, how to stick to the required frequency for the magazine, manage marketing, sales, distribution, keeping track of readership. And we also used to, the most interesting part, or rather the reason for our popularity was a pen pal column that we used to run. And I would also like to point out in between that the biggest challenge was to get these magazines home, because in India, the lack of privacy in middle class families, you can't have a gay magazine coming to you by post. You'll be immediately exposed to your family, and any letter that comes in one individual's name, usually anybody opens it, especially the father of the family, or the mother of the family. So there was huge privacy issues. So that was another challenge that we faced. And because one couldn't get the magazine home, one couldn't even carry the magazine very freely. Like you would carry a Illustrated Weekly or a Dharma Yoga or a Film Fair, you couldn't carry Bombay Dost so openly unless people identified you as gay. So we had to start selling the magazine inside, put them in brown paper envelopes. So that was another challenge.
Treating them the way medical people nowadays treat pads.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, almost like that. Like you get pads or you go to buy condoms and people put it in their pockets. But a magazine couldn't be put inside a pocket, so we had to resort to a brown paper bag. But we had this pen pal column where people used to give their personal classifieds, that I'm so and so and I'm seeking a friend in this and this area and these are my interests and all. So we used to collect all the letters on their behalf and then collect all of them and mail it to them. So that was another reason that we became extremely popular in those days.
Wow. I have a question actually about Bombay Dost since we're still talking about it. Is it
Yeah.
possible to access like the very first issue? Are there archives of each issue being kept so far?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you go to there's a website called bombaydost.com. There are all the archives there. I have some hard copies lying at home also with me. Okay, we started in 1990 and till 2010 almost. We brought it 2007 and 2003. Let me correct myself. 2003. We were regularly out and was quite a little rag, very modest looking, single color, etc. Then we ran out of steam because then we got so busy with the Humsafar Trust that we couldn't concentrate on the magazine. So we started concentrating on the activities of the trust. As a result, the magazine was ignored in the process, and running a magazine is not an easy task. So for nearly 7 years we were defunct, and then eventually we started again in 2010. And this time it was like a proper glossy with full colors, all papers in color and it with photo features and what have you in it.
I will
So now,
definitely go
of
check
course,
that out. After this call, I wanted
please
to
do
have a
that.
look at it. Yeah.
Please do that. So, so now you'll need to ask me another question. Otherwise, I'll just
Yes,
keep off.
yes. No worries, no worries. And I have a question that's actually very related to what we're talking about right now. So, in a way, Bombay Dost was created obviously to even feel like we're represented. I know it was about connecting people who felt lonely and people who wanted to, talk about it. And even today, representation of queer people in media is a big conversation. Like, you have your Disneys of the world saying, we will not show it because we want to sell in China. There's a lot of conversation happening around representation of queer communities in the media landscape. So, what are some of your thoughts on improving LGBT representation in our Indian media landscape? How can we do better?
Oh, there are lots of ways. We actually, one of our advocacy initiatives, we had printed a manual called Sanchar, which we used to educate the journalists and the press as to how we should be represented. We still have very silly terms being used, not only in the print media but also in the electronic media. They keep saying gay sex. What is gay sex? Or gay murder, gay lover. You don't say straight murder and straight lovers.
It
So
feels
why
ridiculous when you actually think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So why highlight it in that particular manner? Because also because the stigma continues, the discrimination continues.